Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 17th chapter, entitled Punishment and Reward of Kali, text number 37. Tanme dharma vratam shrestha sthanam nirdeshtum arhasi yatraiva niyato vatsya Atishtam stenu shasanam. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Therefore, O chief amongst the protectors of religion, please fix some place for me where I can live permanently under the protection of your government. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The personality of Kali addressed Maharaj Parikshit as a chief amongst the protectors of religiosity because the king refrained from killing a person who surrendered unto him. A surrendered soul should be given all protection even though he may be an enemy. That is the principle of religion. And we can just imagine what sort of protection is given by the personality of Godhead to the person who surrenders unto him, not as an enemy but as a devoted servitor. The Lord protects the surrendered soul from all sins and all resultant reactions of sinful acts. Bhagavad Gita 18.66. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Hare Krishna. So we are reading in this episode of Srimad Bhagavatam, in this particular chapter which is entitled Punishment and Reward of Kali. We have been seeing from last few verses of this chapter that how once when Parikshit Maharaj was touring his kingdom, he comes across a person who is actually dressed like a king, but his activities clearly show that he was not a very pious king. So what was his activity? What was the action that was being done by this person dressed as a king? He is actually beating bull and cow. So then when he comes across such a person, he becomes very surprised that how can this thing happen in my kingdom, in my presence, in my rule. So then upon questioning, he instead of directly questioning the personified Kali, he questions bull and the cow. So bull replies, because bull was it was the personification of dharma, religion, and Mother Earth was a personification of cow. And then they both reply, tears were there, and the bull was standing on one leg, the three of the legs were completely injured. So the struggle that was the bull was going through and the cow was going through, then Parikshit Maharaj concludes that this is because the personality of Kali is being trying to inflict pain upon them. So that means it is the indication that Kali Yuga has already begun, because Krishna had already left, had wound up his pastimes, he had departed to Goloka Vrindavan. So then immediately Parikshit Maharaj takes action. He was about to kill Kali Purusha. But Kali Purusha, because he is such a wicked person, so he was also very intelligent. So what was the only option left with him? Is to surrender. So that is what actually we see, that in the previous verse, Kali is speaking to Parikshit Maharaj. He is saying, Your Majesty, though I may live anywhere and everywhere under your order, I shall but see you with bow and arrows wherever I look. Because Parikshit Maharaj was the emperor of the whole world. So wherever Kali Purusha went, he actually could see that perfectly everything was being followed. So now only option for him is to surrender unto the king so that he will get protection. So that is why he is very intelligent, and we think, because why Parikshit Maharaj gave him protection? Parikshit Maharaj would have then and there killed him, isn't it? So then Kali Yuga itself wouldn't have been there. So but that is not, because that is the plan of the Lord. That is how Lord wanted the souls, the jivas, to go through, experience the Kali Yuga, because they had so many desires. So then Kali Purusha had to be protected. So then in today's verse we see that Tanme Dharma Britam Shrestha. So this is again the verse addressed by Kali Purusha to Parikshit Maharaj. He is addressing, O chief amongst the protectors of religion, Dharma Britam Shreshtam. So Dharma Britam means one who protects Dharma. And among the protectors of Dharma, he has been addressed as Shreshta, the chief of all the protectors of religion. Sthanam Nirdeshtum Arhasi. So specifically, please allot some place where I can reside permanently. So not that you allot me one place, tomorrow someone will ask me to vacate that place. No. Kali wants to permanently, he wants to settle in a place where no one can disturb him. So that is what his request is. And then Yatraiva Niyato Vatsya. Yatraiva Niyato Vatsya means wherever I can reside peacefully without disturbance. And Atishtamste Anushasanam. Anushasana means your rule, under your governance, under your rule in that particular place, because entire world is under the governance rule of Parikshit Maharaj. So under your protection, I want to reside permanently so that no one will disturb me. So Kali Purusha is also actually seeking protection, isn't it? He understood that independently, without the support or without the protection of Parikshit Maharaj, even Kali could not spread his influence. So that is why he completely surrenders. He was trembling with fear when Parikshit Maharaj takes his sword and he was about to kill. So then Parikshit Maharaj, what is his response? Obviously he gives protection. So in further verses we see how he gives protection and what are the places that he allows to Kali Purusha. So then Prabhupada is very interestingly writing the purport that the personality of Kali addressed Maharaj Parikshit as a chief amongst the protectors of religiosity, because the king refrained from killing a person who surrendered unto him. So now, the duty of a Kshatriya, the duty of a king, or in general Kshatriya, is to give protection to anyone and everyone who surrenders unto him. Now, if there is a person who is committing some sinful activity or is committing some mistakes, so upon questioning him or asking him why is he committing this mistake, if the response is if he accepts his mistake and then surrenders, then he has to be given protection. So that is what exactly Parikshit Maharaj also did, because he knew very well the principles of religion. Dharmaptu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. So it is said that Parikshit Maharaj, being a pure devotee of religion, what are the codes and conduct of religion, properly executing the following the process of perfect religion. So that the science was known to Parikshit Maharaj because he was a pure devotee of the Lord. So this is not the case. Even Lord himself has shown the codes of conduct, the codes of religion. So for example, if you see in the Mahabharata, Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra, they were so wicked personalities, characters. So they tried to harm always the Pandavas. And always the Pandavas were protected by the proper guidance of Vidura and overall by Krishna. Although Vidura and Bhishma Deva, they were all internally actually having good intentions to protect, to save Pandavas. But nothing much they could do openly, because they were under the rule of such kings such as Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra. So then, but Krishna was the one who actually told what is the religion. Although externally it may look like sometimes people say, oh no, this was not proper, this is irreligious. Now, Bhagavad Gita is inciting violence, it is encouraging war, it is trying to, Arjuna is such a nice person, but Krishna is actually inciting him to become violent, and all this such kind of theories some people will propagate. But that is not the proper understanding of Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita knowledge, what the knowledge as it is that was given by Krishna to Arjuna, that is being given by Srila Prabhupada to us. That is what it's called Bhagavad Gita as it is. So that is why the reading purport and understanding the verses is also so important. So there also we see that how Krishna protected, because he is the creator of the codes of conduct for human society and in general for everybody, because Krishna is the Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. He is the foremost of all, king of all kings. So he sets an example how to rule this world, how to rule over a kingdom, what are the proper codes of religion. So then, if we study how Pandavas were constantly protected by Krishna, not because they were completely helpless. Yes, in one sense, yes, they were helpless. But at the same time, even though they were so qualified, they were able administrators and with so many good qualities, they never gave up this idea of taking consultation with Krishna. So because Krishna was always the well-wisher, and they also knew that without protection of the Lord, nothing can be achieved properly. So that is why everyone needs protection. Even Pandavas, although they were so well qualified, they wanted protection. So that is why Krishna also has given this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to all of us, that whenever we feel insecure, whenever we become fearful, whenever we need protection, because this material world, every step there is danger. Padam padam yat vipadam natesham. So the best protection will be obtained from the knowledge given by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. So similarly, Parikshit Maharaj's protection was sought by Kali Purusha, because he also knew that without taking the shelter, without completely surrendering, he cannot be completely fearless. So his life was in danger. So that is why not only Parikshit Maharaj or human beings, everybody wants protection. So other day somebody sent a short clip video. It was actually a short video. The scene was a veterinary hospital where people take their animals for treatment. So there two people were seated, and one of them had one dog, this British bulldog, that particular dog he was holding and sitting. And next to him there was a person who was watching this dog, and he was little fearful, because this dog was continuously barking at him. So the dog was barking so much like as though it was behaving, it is the king of the forest, lion. It was behaving like that. And then, but after a few seconds, quickly the owner of that dog, the master of that dog, had some activities. So he just places the dog on the chair, he goes away. So the moment he leaves that dog and goes away, this dog, all the few seconds earlier, it was behaving like a king, like a lion. It becomes very, very soft and stops barking. It becomes like a lamb. So then, so that's all. The video ends there. So the conclusion was contemplating that how when even an animal, when it is got a proper master, when it is under protection of someone, it is actually completely fearless. It is out of fear. But when that protection is missing, then what happens? He actually becomes very fearful. Then he stops barking. So similarly, if you see different Vedic scriptures, like for example, King Indra is such a powerful ruler, one of the powerful maintainers, the rulers of this universe. When he is at peace, when no demons are attacking, when everything is going on well, he is very, very happy. He is completely fearless. But moment some powerful demon, attacks his Indraloka, he becomes very, very fearful. Then he runs to his master, Guru Brihaspati, or he goes to Lord Brahma or Shiva or Lord Vishnu, like that. So now, it is very important that always we are under the protection of an able person. That is what Parikshit Maharaj is being addressed here, because he was the chief amongst the protectors of religiosity. The king refrained from killing a person who had surrendered unto him. So Prabhupada is mentioning, because he knew very well the codes of conduct, that he was capable of giving protection to anybody who would surrender to him. So he gives protection to Kali, because that was the religious principle. And in Ramayana also we come across that when Vibhishana, he comes to Lord Ramachandra's camp, he gives up the company of Ravana, because he tried advising Ravana to return Mother Sita to Lord Rama, but completely he was reluctant, like adamant. And then he knew that for sure he is going to get destroyed. So that is why Vibhishana sought the protection of the Lord. Wherever or whoever has the protection of the Lord, the protection is unending. So there is never a time when the Lord is unable or incapable of giving protection. So that is why Vibhishana knew the position of Lord Ramachandra. He gives up and he comes to the Lord Ramachandra's camp. But when he comes, a lot of supporters of Lord Rama, they actually tell Ramachandra that no, you should not accept him. He might be a spy. So he might be here, acting to get some information, pass it on to Ravana. So because of that, Lord Ramachandra says that no, even though that is the case, so Prabhupada is telling in the purport that yes, the Lord gives protection to anyone who surrenders unto him, even if an enemy comes to him for surrender. Actually, Prabhupada is telling that Lord will give protection. So although externally looking he was from enemy's army, Lord Ramachandra gives him protection and he allows him to stay with him. So if you see today, today's world, like everywhere the news are flashing that war is happening in Israel and Ukraine and so many different places all throughout across the world. So a lot of instability there. So that's why people are actually just waiting to leave the country and come back to the original country. A lot of embassies, they had information that the citizens of their country, they are stuck in that, so they extend all the help to make sure that their citizens come back to that particular country. So whereas no matter from material point of view, one of the most advanced nations in terms of technology or defense, so many things, but still it is highly unpredictable that no one can assure that I can give you protection completely. So nobody can make that statement except Krishna. So Prabhupada is quoting here Bhagavad Gita, the most famous verse 18.66, that Sarva Dharmam Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Braja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshayishyami Ma Shuchaha. So do not fear. Krishna is telling that until unless one gets Krishna's protection, and how that protection comes, just like Prabhupada gives example of a small child. A child is not having big knowledge or big technological knowledge, scientific knowledge. Whenever it is in a fearful situation or whenever in a needy situation, what it does, simply it surrenders to its mother, surrenders to its parents, calls for its mother. So moment the mother or the parent of that child listens to the cry of the child, immediately they extend all support and all protection. So that is what Krishna is telling, that in this verse the Lord protects the surrendered soul from all sinful reactions and all resultant reactions to sinful acts. So this is what Prabhupada is telling in that particular purport of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is telling that Krishna will give all protection to a person who has completely surrendered. And when a person or a devotee gets such a complete protection of the Lord, he becomes completely fearless. So but otherwise this material world is described as dukkhalayam ashashvatam. This it is full of dukkha, it is full of miseries. If you see there were some videos circulated in the war, the kind of damages that people have gone through. People have lost their houses, they have lost their family members, so many people have lost their lives, and the medical condition is in a terrible state, and so it takes so much of time again to establish peace, and so much of trauma. People have lost their properties. Staying alive itself is a big this thing. No, they cannot say that at what moment where the bomb will drop next. So that kind of a situation people have gone. So dukkhalayam and ashashvatam, it is temporary also. No matter how much ever, okay, after say let's for example after some years or after a few days, peace is established. Again there is no guarantee that again such war will not take place. So it is like that. So until unless Lord's protection is there, until unless we all return to our original home, that is Vaikunta, spiritual world from where we all have come back, we cannot have that kind of situation in this material world which is free of anxiety. So Prabhupada is again and again telling that this protection, the Lord protects. So it's such a small purport, Prabhupada is used the word protection 4 times. So Prabhupada is telling that a surrendered soul should be given all protection even though he may be an enemy. That is the principle of religion. And we can just imagine what sort of protection is given by the personality of Godhead to the person who surrenders unto him, not as an enemy but as a devoted servitor. The Lord protects the surrendered soul from all sins and all resultant reactions to sinful activities. So when we stay in this material world, it is unavoidable to to save us from committing sinful acts. So knowingly, unknowingly, we may commit some sinful activities, because of which we have to suffer the consequences, the resultant reactions. So, but whereas if you see, for example, Prabhupada is mentioning here the person the devotee who is a surrendered soul fully unto the Supreme Lord, he gets all protection. Why is that partiality? So it is actually not partiality. It is said in Bhagavad Gita also that if we see when the battle of Kurukshetra was about to begin, Duryodhana also was very intelligent, materially speaking. He was materially calculating so much, and he was assessing the capability of his army and the opposite army. There he says that aparyaptam tadasmakam balam bhishmabhirakshitam paryaptam tu idam etesham balam bhimabhirakshitam. So he is comparing, our army is protected by the great general Bhishma Deva, which is like unlimited protection, because Bhishma Deva was the senior most among their family, and he had never lost a war, and Ichha Mrityu, that boon he had, that only when he desires he will die. So until he dies, there is protection for our army, for me, is what Duryodhana was calculating. Whereas the opposite side, the Pandavas, he was not considering Krishna, because Krishna knows he is a very tricky person. So I mean, he can do anything and everything, but still, so just to console his mind, so his actually mind is trying to cheat him. He is considering Bhima. He is more fearful of Bhima than Krishna. So he was considering that the Pandavas' army was protected under the guidance of Bhima, who is actually an ordinary person, according to the estimate of Duryodhana. So here also, Duryodhana is also seeking after protection. So he is seeking protection of, as per his estimate, his protector is Bhishma Deva, whereas Pandava's protector was Bhima. Whereas actually in reality, everyone's protector, the Pandava's protector was Lord Krishna, which the point he missed out. So that is why he was always in anxiety. So Duryodhana was always in anxiety, whereas Prabhupada is telling here, whoever is completely surrendered unto the Supreme Lord, they are completely fearless. So Prabhupada in another place, he was mentioning this particular statement in one lecture there. There Prabhupada recollects that the Gopas, the friends of Lord Krishna, when Krishna was there 5000 years back on this planet in Vrindavan, they were completely fearless. Although they were small boys, and Kamsa was almost on a daily basis, he was sending very powerful demons to attack them, to kill them, to finish Krishna and all of them. But still, even though they were under such a pressure and a warlike situation, they were completely at peace. They were never fearful. Although momentarily they may be fearful, but next moment they are actually comforted that Krishna is with us. There can no harm come upon us because Krishna's protection is there on us. So very beautiful pastime that Aghasura, one of the very dangerous demons sent by King Kamsa to kill Lord Krishna in Vrindavan. So when Krishna was just 4 or 5 years old, one day Krishna thinks that let us all go to forest today in Vrindavan and let us enjoy the nice cool breeze over there, and with our calves let us have a small picnic, let us eat some food, let us share and have a good time. So all the Gopas pack some food, and then early in the morning they leave to Vrindavan, and on the way they were so in the jovial mood, and the breeze was so fresh, the clear crystal water of Yamuna and lakes, Govardhan was there and all that. So they were playing just like one of the Gopas would go and sit next to the frog in the lake, just outside the lake on the lotus leaf, frog used to be there. He used to silently go there and stand, and then out of fear, frog used to jump out of the leaf and then enter water. Then boy also would follow, jump into the lake and swim. So like that. So, and then when birds were flying in the sky, the boys used to trace the path, the shadow, and then they also used to run in the ground. So then they were playing with calves, they were teasing monkeys, making some caricatures and all that. So they were having very good time. But moment this Aghasura comes, he was in the form of a snake. he sees that all these boys are very much enjoying nicely, they're having such fun, completely fearless, whereas even though I am a demon, I have fear of Kamsa. Whatever Kamsa orders, I have to follow. So he was always in a fearful condition, just like Duryodhana or anybody, anybody who is not surrendered to Krishna is always in anxiety. So then he becomes very envious of these boys, and especially Lord Krishna. Krishna was also laughing, making jokes, cracking jokes and fun and all that like that. So he becomes very envious. So this Prabhupada mentions that this envious nature is such that para sukha dukkhi. Bhaktivedanta Thakur also says in his composition that whenever a materialistic person sees others unhappy, he becomes happy, and when he sees others happy, he becomes unhappy. So if somebody is very happy, this person becomes very unhappy. Whereas a pure devotee's qualification is, Prabhupada Bhaktivedanta Thakur says that para dukkha dukkhi. If somebody else is in a miserable condition, then he also becomes very sad. And if somebody is happy, obviously he also becomes very happy. So this envious nature, the original enviousness started from that Jiva started envying Supreme Lord himself. So why Krishna only should enjoy? Why not I also can enjoy? Why can I be competitor to Krishna? So that's where Jivas also actually fell down to this material world. And then because of this envious nature, now anyways he had the order of Kamsa, so he wanted to kill Krishna, Lord Krishna. So then he assumes, because he had perfection in all these yoga siddhis, Mahima Siddhi. So because he had this perfection in Mahima Siddhi, he expands his body into such a huge body, 8-mile long body. He was a snake. So by default, snakes are considered to be envious. That is why Prahlad Maharaj also offers prayers that Modeta Sadhurapi Vrishchika Sarpahatya. So because whenever envious elements like scorpions, snakes, because without anyone's fault, their desire is to just bite and harm people. So that is why there is mention of Kaliya also. We see Kaliya was so envious because he had so much of poison in his fangs. And then we see Parikshit Maharaj also ultimately was bitten by the Takshaka, snake. So they are actually considered to be very, very envious. But when the same Kaliya, when he came in contact, when he came in touch with Krishna, when he got Krishna's blessing and protection, what happened? The same person got transformed. He became actually free from this envy. But anyways, this Aghasura, he expanded, and then he just he just traced the path in which the boys were going, and then he exactly lay his mouth wide open, and he actually laid his tongue, as a carpet to welcome all these boys. So then it is described in Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, which Srila Prabhupada summarizes in Krishna book, also that the upper lip of the snake was touching the clouds and the lower lip was touching the ground. So actually boys, when they saw this, they became very surprised. This thing was not earlier here present before. So all of a sudden, from where it manifested, they got a doubt. And Krishna also knew what is happening, because he is there in everyone's heart as Paramatma. So Krishna, because he was playing the part, he was as a role of a ordinary human child. So at that point in time, he keeps quiet. So then let us see as it winds up, how the will of providence works. Krishna was trying to test Yoga Maya's potency to create such situation. And then these boys say, one of them say that, okay, let us go inside this interesting cave. And then, but the other boy points out that, no, be careful. This looks like, huge snake, and it looks like this is the mouth. And then the teeth, the sharp teeth, the jaw, everything looks like, something it's very unnatural, and we should avoid going into this. But then other boy says, no, what happens even if there is some harm to us inside this particular snake, Lord Krishna is there to protect us. Nothing can harm Krishna. Nobody can kill Krishna. So like that, they had that kind of faith and confidence in Krishna. And then we know that, they proceed, and then Aghasura becomes very happy. Now only Krishna was remaining to enter Aghasura's body. So now moment Krishna also enters Aghasura, what he does, he just closes his mouth. And then because of the poisonous effects of Aghasura, and all the children, all the gopas, they all fell unconscious inside the stomach of Aghasura. And Aghasura was now just waiting to kill Krishna. And these great devatas, they were all waiting above the clouds just to see the fun of Krishna and the gopas, how they were enjoying their time in the forest. So they wanted to see that, but all of a sudden this Aghasura has swallowed everyone, and they become very upset, and they started praying, and they started offering prayers. Alas, alas, now Krishna is, because they think Krishna is also like a small child. And then what happens, we all know that Prabhupada explains very interestingly. Krishna starts expanding. If Aghasura knew this perfection of siddhis called Mahima, expansion, Anima, Lagima, like this kind of small siddhis, whereas Krishna is Yogeshwara, master of all the yogis, master of all the mystic siddhis. So Krishna now starts expanding his body. Okay, Aghasura expanded 8 miles long body. Now Krishna will show to what extent he can expand. So now he started expanding, because life air, when we do breathing, the air goes in and out. So the Krishna was in such a position in the throat of Aghasura, where he started expanding, and then completely he chokes his throat, he blocks it, and then the life air couldn't go from nostrils or mouth, so it just bursts out from the head of Aghasura, and then Aghasura actually passes away, dies. And then when Aghasura dies, the soul, the spirit soul, actually that was the Aghasuras had a snake body, but that was like a external dress, just like we have this external dress, but actual person was the spirit soul. So that small spirit soul, it was just waiting for Krishna to come out of the body, and then moment Krishna comes out, after the dead body of Aghasura, it merges into Krishna. So Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, the God is all good. Even if he killed Aghasura, demon, and not only Aghasura, Aghasura's brother was Bakasura, and then his sister was Putana. So whoever was killed by Krishna, they all get liberation. They all got liberation. So because Krishna is all good, so Krishna's protection is, from material point of view, if you see, it is protection of the body, or protection of his assets, or protection of name, fame, etc. But the real protection is protection of the spirit soul. So that is what Prabhupada is telling, that a pure devotee is always fearless, because he is completely surrendered unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, and Krishna gives protection to his spirit soul, which is eternal. Gives protection to body also, but in some cases where we may see that he has not given protection, like for example Vritrasura's pastime we see in Bhagavatam. So who happens to be Chitraketu, because of the curse of Mother Parvati, he had to accept the body of a demon, and then there he says that although Lord is not protecting my body, he is protecting my soul. So after this life, immediately I am going to be transferred into the spiritual world. That is the real protection. Whereas King Indra, that time he was, although it looks like apparently he is being protected, but actually his body was protected, his position, his all these facilities were protected. But after that life, again he had to come back to the material world. But again, in that position, if King Indra happened to be a pure devotee, then again that doesn't matter. So Prabhupada was mentioning this analogy that even though the small boys, the friends, the gopas, the friends of Krishna, they were so small, they were completely fearless because of the protection of the Supreme Lord. So that was the point. And then Prabhupada mentions elsewhere that we have already come to know that the influence of the age of Kali is meant for godless so-called civilized man, whereas those who are under the protection of the Lord have nothing to fear from this horrible age. So that is why this situation wherein a lot of warfares are happening, pandemics are coming, so many miserable conditions, accidents and all that. But that is all actually because of influence of Kali. There is some misunderstanding between two nations or between two sects of people, because of which the war sparks out. And whereas for a civilized men, where actually Aryans, they are supposed to be civilized men who know the ultimate goal of life is not to settle in this material world, but to go back to home, back to Godhead, to seek that eternal protection of the Supreme Lord, to have that fearless state of consciousness. So that is meant for devotees, Prabhupada is telling. Unless the living entity comes to the guaranteed protection of the Supreme Lord, he is always full of anxiety. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also mentions that Jiver Swarupa Hoy Krishner Nityadas. So moment anybody gets this particular position, eternal position of being a servant of the Supreme Lord and engage in his service, he becomes fearless because that is his natural, original constitutional position. Because without protection of the Lord, nobody can be peaceful or happy. So that is the thing. And just like in Bhagavad Gita also, the major topics which are discussed can be classified into 5. In Srimad Bhagavatam also, there are 10 topics, like it begins with Sargo, Visarga, so it creation, then sub-creation. So in that, the 4th item is Poshanaha, the protection of the Supreme Lord. So if you see various pastimes centered around Srimad Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita, one of the most important aspect is Lord's assurance of giving protection to his surrendered souls. So Krishna also tells in Bhagavad Gita, Name Bhakta Pranashati, Kaunteya Pratijanihi, Name Bhakta Pranashati. No matter what happens, for a pure devotee of the Lord, for a devotee of the Lord who is trying to serve Krishna, who is trying to, sincerely trying to go back to Godhead, Lord's protection is available. So that is also mentioned. But otherwise, Prabhupada says, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Ekoya Bahunam Vidadati Kaman. So from material point of view, if somebody is looking to seek Lord's protection only to just maintain his body or to maintain his name, fame, etc., that also Lord gives protection. But the ultimate protection is protection of the soul. Yes, elsewhere Prabhupada is mentioning that this gives a very interesting analogy. Just like a citizen, in today's world also we see, suppose somebody, a law-abiding citizen is there, he need not fear police, isn't it? And Durga Devi also is doing the same task of the Supreme Lord. It is trying to purify the conditioned soul so that he can rectify the mistakes which he has committed in the past and purify himself and go back to God. That is why when we celebrate Navaratri, it is said Durga Devi is possessing 20 weapons in her 10 hands, 20 hands. And from all directions, Adi Bhautika, Adhyatmika, Adidavika, Kleshas she is giving to the living entities because of the task allotted to her. So that the conditioned souls realize that this is the mistake, this is not the place for us to remain eternally. You rectify your mistakes, and then we seek the eternal protection of the Supreme Lord. And when we do that, actually, just like law-abiding citizen, he need not fear police. And what to speak of somebody who is, like for example, president of the country. He is doing such a great service, he is in such a position. So the country will extend police protection to him. Rather, he is fearful of police. Suppose one criminal is there, he is always fearful of police or somebody who may try to catch him and put him into jail and all that. So whereas person who is like for example president of the country, he is giving police protection. So similarly, Prabhupada also draws analogy that a common man may be fearful because he has done so many mistakes in the past. So he is always fearful. He is not having mental, this peace of mind. Whereas a person who is surrendered, actually Durga Devi gives him protection. The police, just like police protection is given to a person who is completely surrendered and doing great service. So similarly, a pure devotee of the Lord, like Srila Prabhupada, who is doing such a great service on behalf of Krishna's mission of reclaiming these fallen souls. Krishna also tells that, Manmanabho madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mam eve satyante pratijane priyosimi. Person who is always thinking of me, always rendering service to me, offering obeisance to me, becoming my devotee is very dear to me. So in such a task, a pure devotee representative, spiritual master is taking. So that is why he is a very, very dear associate of the Supreme Lord. So when we come under the protection of such a pure devotee spiritual master, we will also get the same protection. We will be fearless. So that is why in today's verse also we see that in that sense Kali Purusha was very intelligent to seek protection from the pure devotee like Parikshit Maharaj, who happens to be the ruler, the emperor of the whole world. And because he knows that Kshatriya, moment he accepts someone's surrender, he will give him all protection. The moment all protection is there, he will become completely fearless. So that is well. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur also, he mentions in his lot of compositions that in one of the poems, one of the compositions of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Tumi Sarveswareshwara Brajendra Nandana Tumara, in that he says that Marobi Rakobi Joecha Tumara. So he is completely surrendered and he is asking Krishna to either give him protection or not. So obviously, because whenever a person is surrendered, even to any Kshatriya, such a Kshatriya gives protection, whereas Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport that a pure devotee who is completely surrendered, Lord will give him definitely all protection. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, he says that, he came as a devotee of the Lord, although he was the Supreme Lord himself, he was always chanting Krishna's holy names. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava Paimam, Rama Raksha, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava Rakshamam. And then like that he was always chanting Hare Krishna mantra, and then he was offering different kinds of prayers, he is relishing pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Thereby one could get easily protection. So another place, another great pure devotee, he was offering this prayer that pure devotees, they have in different relationships with the Supreme Lord, they are in different mood, different bhava. So there this particular devotee was glorifying that my dear Lord, you don't have to come personally, your name is sufficient, your holy name is sufficient. So he gives in his composition examples of Gajendra. Gajendra, when he was in difficulty, the king of elephants, when the crocodile was trying to catch his leg and trying to kill him. So Gajendra could just offer prayers, heartfelt prayers, and he chanted. Although he couldn't exactly chant some particular mantra or a particular holy name, he addressed as the Supreme Lord, and then Supreme Lord appeared. And then Prahlad Maharaj, whenever he was put into difficulties, so many atrocities were done onto him by his own father, always he was protected by Krishna's holy name. And then Draupadi, when she was in a helpless condition, she could chant only Krishna's holy name. So then she got Krishna's protection. And then Dhruva Maharaj also same thing. When he was a small boy, a 5-year-old, all alone in the forest where very dangerous animals, beasts were there, he could get protected only because of Krishna's holy name. And then Ajamila. So Ajamila also, at the time of his death, on the deathbed, although he called out to his son Narayana, although he did not mean to address it to Lord Narayana, immediately Lord Narayana sent Vishnudutas to give him protection. So that is why that devotee says that always you should chant the holy name of the Lord. So that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also said, Kirtaniya Sadahari. You should always keep chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that is why soulful japa, if we can very nicely cultivate this habit, and if we can somehow chant very soulfully, very nicely, then that is the medicine for us. So the medicine has to go through the ears, so either through holy name and hearing the pastimes of the Lord, and engaging in hearing various pastimes, engaging practically in devotional service, different aspects. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommended chanting and hearing is the most easiest method. That is why it is recommended for this Kali Yuga. We can close this by a quick recollection by one of the devotees. When Srila Prabhupada was there in Vrindavan, so this devotee recollects that how he was protected by Krishna. So when this devotee was driving, so in the west, he was driving in the west. So you know how in the western countries, the Prabhupada also quoted, they drive so fast, and unexpectedly any accident may happen, anything can happen at any moment, we don't know. So this devotee also actually meets accident, and then in that condition, he could not just chant or remember, but because he was always trying to think Krishna, so he just thought of Krishna, and then next moment what happened, he did not remember. Next minute he sees himself, when he opens his eyes, he was in hospital. So then after a few years he comes back, and when Prabhupada is in Vrindavan, he narrates this, So then Prabhupada tells him that if it was not for Krishna's protection, that day you would have passed away. So like that, Prabhupada has shown that Krishna's devotee is protected. May not be that just he is protected from bodily point of view, and it doesn't mean that just like we saw the Vritrasura, just because Krishna allowed him to die, doesn't mean Krishna did not protect him. He protected his soul also. So like that, Prabhupada also stressed on the importance of chanting holy name, and especially Hare Krishna mantra, and following the 4 regulatory principles, which is derived from the next verse of this chapter. Why it is important to follow 4 regulatory principles, very elaborate purport Prabhupada writes, and let us see and how it goes further. So that is why it is important that even from Kali we should draw inspiration that because he surrendered to King Parikshit, who was a pure devotee of the Lord, he actually was survived. And that was the religion, the codes of religion which Parikshit Maharaj had to follow, and then that was on a larger plan of the Lord. So we'll stop here. If anybody has any questions or comments, 5 more minutes we can discuss. Okay, so let's stop here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hare Hare.